Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents. With me, your host, Valerie, and sometime kitty co-hosts Miss Purrington and Mookie are safe at home. We are recording from the Fallout podcast studio. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, show reviews, our advice column, our listing of festivals from across the country and the world, our FPIA contest page, and my articles for the Austin Chronicle and thebarbedwire.com about the Austin and Texas comedy scene. Our most popular feature is our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. Click the Submit a Show button from the top of the homepage or events page to fill out the survey to get your show listed. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo to our followers. We also offer paid promo pushes on Instagram. Speaking of events, come check out our monthly Canyon Grill comedy show in Lakeway on first Wednesdays of the month. Want to share these resources? Or no, sorry, please do share them, but do you want to support these resources that we provide? You can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Our podcast was launched in 2016 to bring you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the Austin comedy scene one of the best in the country. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to the producer and host of Clown Garden, which just completed its run at Fallout Theater. She's taught improv for kids for Hideout Theater. She is a member of the Cold Town Theater house team Heartbreaker. And she's going to reveal the answer to a big question that I have that I didn't know I had until I was doing my research. Is she Trisha? And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Marceline Amaris.
Hi.
I'm just going to lead with the whole Trisha thing.
Okay.
So I was at that show because I love Garrett Buss and I wanted to support the Daddy Strong Legs. Mm-hmm. And Trisha was the final performer of that show, I believe. And when I was preparing, I'm like, holy shit, Marceline was Trisha? Like,
oh, you didn't recognize me.
I didn't recognize you because I think either the class that we had together hadn't started yet, or I just didn't know you well enough to be like, yeah, that's her.
Oh my God, yes. Me, the whole time. I can't believe that's what you meant. I thought you meant like, is the story about you? Like, it's like because that story is a little bit wacky. So
very wacky.
Yeah. That's amazing. I am so glad to hear that. I did all that costuming and the wig myself.
My
so
God.
I feel really proud right now.
Yeah. I mean, that was very impressive work. And just based on what I saw, you probably know the name Natalie Palomides.
Yes, I love her.
I'm like, oh my gosh, she's channeling Natalie.
Yeah.
Because she does such crazy shit.
Yes.
With her stuff.
Thank you. That means so much to me. I absolutely admire her. And every now and then, whenever I feel like super like, what the hell am I doing again?
Yeah.
I'll just like go watch one of her videos. I forget the name of it, but she's basically like a baby bird or a mother bird. It's like a trailer of the full thing.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, oh yeah, it's just some weird old shit.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So going down the Natalie wormhole,
Mm-hmm.
do you go see her when she comes through for Moon Tower with Clown? Wait, what? Fuck. Why did I? Stamptown.
Stamptown.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. What's it called? Stamptown.
Yes. I love to go see her whenever she's in town. I did get to see her do Weir as well.
Okay.
And that was fun. Yeah, I love what Stamptown is doing as well, and I'm glad that like I get to see a lot of clowns whenever I go.
Yeah.
It's very like you just can see like all the ways that people are really bringing their individual expression to it.
Yeah. My favorite example of that is Martin Urbano, who, he basically got his big push in Austin as a stand-up. and the things that he does for the Stamptown show. I'm like, oh my God, it's Martin being Martin, but in this context of this like spectacle show.
Yes.
So yeah, I very fully agree that it's letting people be like them, but in like this extra way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
super fun.
Well, enough about Natalie. Let's talk about you. And actually, I have an official icebreaker question,
Okay.
and that is one word to describe your past.
I think one word to describe my past would be like, well. Like in the Owen Wilson kind of, what does he say? Well? Or like,
Oh yeah, he's hard to imitate though.
yeah.
Well.
Yeah, that's the kind of vibe that I feel like when I look at my past, because I'm like, well, there was some tough turns there, but like, you're fine, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. We actually got a chance to talk about this during a social gathering that we had, but where did you grow up?
Oh, so I mostly grew up in Louisiana.
What?
Yeah.
We had this whole conversation about turkey.
I know. There's not a lot of information about me on the internet. There's only snippets of conversation that you can pick up with me. But yes, I was born in Turkey, and I was raised there till I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And then my mother was widowed and remarried to an American man.
Okay.
Great guy. And we ended up moving to the U.S. and lived in Oklahoma for like a year where he was from.
Okay.
And then came down to Louisiana, and I was in Louisiana from like, I want to say like 7, 8 to 19.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my upbringing is very swamp hood.
Eclectic. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you probably don't have a lot of memories unless did you ever go back to Turkey on a regular basis?
Yeah, we tried to visit maybe like twice whenever I was still like underage, like living with my parents. And it was always very like jarring to be there because I was like, how do we turn on the AC? And it's like, no, you open the windows.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was just like a huge language barrier. And I was like, I want to be close to these people, but what the heck? Like, what are they saying?
Yeah.
Why do they talk so fast? You get a little bit racist towards your own family.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Not on purpose, I swear.
Yeah, well, you're young, too. So you're like, I don't need these people. They're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that teenage kind of like, ugh, gross.
Yeah. It's so funny. There's some really interesting parallels. So I was born in Belgium, and when I was 6, my dad, who's from Texas, moved us here because my mom was Belgian. And so we didn't go directly to a swamp, but we did go to a racist state. So, but when I would go back to visit with my grandmother, who I absolutely adored, it was kind of cool because she lived in a really small town. And I literally would be the rock star of the town because I was the American girl who was in town for the summer. And so it was very ego boosting.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that so much. Oh, that reminds me of like, I would always like I had a couple of friends who like went abroad for school, and I'd be like, man, I just know they're the hottest chick in that school. Like, and I want to be her. Take me away.
Was comedy or like performance of any kind something that was on your radar growing up?
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, it's really interesting because I have like, I was always drawn to it. I love dancing. I love just like, I really made a spectacle of myself, even as like a 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, without being like super intentional about it. It was just like, my world is different. And so I think there was always this like, why is she so weird? And then it grew into me just like harboring like different hobbies. And I eventually in middle school, I was like, I'm going to be like a dancer. I'm going to be like Beyonce's backup dancer. Like, and so I think my mind was like really churning and like trying to figure out like, how do I get onto a stage? Like that was the big question. Like it didn't matter what I was doing. Get me onto a stage. Like I want it.
And so you got into dancing.
Yes.
Like professional, as much as professional can be at, as a teenager, or
no,
the living room was your stage.
Yeah, I think it's really funny how much I believe in myself. Because I had like no support in anything. Oh, my family, I know. My mom thought it was so funny that I would be like learning dance routines like in the middle of the night, and she'd be like, "Shut up, turn it off." Like, and I was like, "No, this is who I am." Just like unbridled belief in what I was doing. So yeah, and every now and then she would like try and like oblige, I guess. And like she signed me up for a dance class, and then I hated it. I hated following other people's rules.
It's all coming together.
Yes, this is who I am.
Yeah. You want to be on a stage, but you don't want to follow anybody's rules or conventions. Wow, I wonder why you started Clown Garden.
Yeah. Sometimes things come together.
Yeah. So what was the next like thread or performance area where you're like, okay, maybe the dancing, I mean, maybe dancing is still important to you, but what was the next thing?
Yeah, I think the next thing is I kind of feel like I followed like the breadcrumbs. So my friend was living in Houston. I was in Louisiana. And she started getting into poetry slams.
Ooh.
And I was like, ooh, I want to come see.
Yeah.
Like, so she brought me out there. And we went to a poetry slam, and I watched her, and I was like, I want to do this now because this is another way to get on stage. But all of my poetry is actually so embarrassing. And I sound like not that illiterate, like. And I think from there,
wait. We have to stop because your voice sounds to me so perfect for slam poetry.
Does it really?
It really does. And like you have a cadence to how you speak, and I would think like that would be slam poetry would be so good.
That's so sweet, but I can't hold in a giggle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There is a lot of like rage that comes through with slam poetry.
I'm a little too like, oh, everything's so silly. Like I'll get there's been so many times that I've been angry and then I just bust out laughing because I just like think about the way that my face looks when I'm angry. And I feel like a little baby again. Okay. So yeah. Well,
right.
But thank you.
Yeah.
I will consider writing some more poetry now.
Well, and if you don't have to follow the rules, then who cares if you're giggling in the middle of this, tirade? So
that's true.
Yeah,
that could be a character.
That could
just
be
a slam poet who can't take it serious.
Yes. Oh my God, I love it. All right, so slam poetry is a bust.
Yeah, slam poetry was a bust. I really was not cool enough for it. Actually, that is the facts. And then I want to say that I kind of like teetered off and was like, God, how do I just get out of Louisiana? Like, there's nothing here. Like, I got really into partying. And I was
What part of Louisiana were you in? Because there are some comedy scenes in Louisiana.
Yes. So I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And at the time, we had two guys who were like, I'm a comic. And literally nobody understood what that was. I remember like talking to my friends and being like, what the hell is that? And that's real. And that's real. And that's so...
I know they have invented Google by this point. So.
Yeah, that's true. I only had like an iPod though. My mom I didn't have access.
You didn't have internet access yet?
No,
okay,
I didn't Google on the daily, on the hourly at that point, you know? So it was a different time still.
Yeah. All right. So not much of a scene where you're at. Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up finding a job at Starbucks that transferred me. And I got my transfer done in 1 hour, and I was on the schedule in Austin at a Starbucks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was just like a whim that I had on my lunch break, and my manager was like, paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. I love it. Which she really did. She loved paperwork. So it's like, okay.
I feel that woman in my heart.
Yes.
I love paperwork.
Yeah, I wish she was still around, honestly, like as a personal friend of mine, because I do need help. And so I transferred here. I didn't really know what I was doing in Austin. I was actually like homeless for the first 8 months, like living in my car. And now I hear that that's a very common story of like comics that move here. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I did it before. It was cool.
So how long ago was this?
This was in October 2018.
Okay.
I moved here.
Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of just started to like try and hang out with people and see what was up. And I dated for the first time in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And one of them took me to an open mic, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is so, like, it's weird,
such a
but
bad date idea.
I know. It's terrible.
Yeah.
People do it all the time.
That's so bad.
Yeah. And I was just like, I was like kind of put off by it because of what people were saying, but I was like, why do they get a mic?
Is that a stage?
Yeah. I was like, interesting that the stage is lower than the seats. Okay. But I'm with it. I'll do it. And I just kind of like kept asking my date, like, what is this? How do they sign up? Who are they? Like, why did they get to do it? And he was like explaining it to me. He was like, anybody can sign up. You just show up when the sign up time is, like, and
do you remember the name of the open mic?
Yeah, it was actually the Lucky Duck open mic.
Okay.
Alden Schwab. Yeah. And what a man.
Yeah. What a good guy.
He was so kind to me. And I really appreciated that, because that was the start of a very rough time.
I did not realize, because I only know you as an improviser and as Trisha. Yeah. And I did not realize that you actually went through a stand-up.
Yeah,
time.
I intentionally removed it all from the internet. I remember someone being like, yeah, stand-ups shouldn't post their content for like the first like 3 to 5 years.
That's fair.
And as soon as I took a step back from stand-up, like after 2 years of doing it really aggressively, like 6 nights a week, multiple mics a night, I took like a couple months like and stepped back, and I was like, ooh, I gotta get rid of all of this off the internet, please. This is like, I feel like I'm being like terrorized by a past version of myself right now. Like, this is crazy that she said that.
Was your first time doing an open mic, was it solely driven by that need of, oh, that's a stage? I want to be on a stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And since you didn't have a lot of knowledge about what stand-up comedy was and what comics were, how did you approach your first open mic?
Well, I think, so I went back to the Lucky Duck mic, and that was actually my first mic that I did myself, like my own 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I actually, the week prior, I had bought a book about stand-up, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was just like a formula, teaching you a formula to write jokes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'll just like fill in the blanks, you know, like what else is there?
Yeah. You're given a formula. Yeah.
Can you tell I was a great test taker?
Yes.
Let me fill in these blanks. I got it. Doesn't matter what you put in, just put something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I went and I told like probably one of the most traumatizing stories of my life.
Oh my God.
I was like, why did I think that was the funny one of all the things? Like, I could have talked about like I don't know, peeing myself or something, pooping myself. But then I go like, no, someone died and it was brutal.
Well, I mean, in hindsight, you have already processed that traumatic event, but your audience has no idea what's coming, and
well, honestly,
they are not prepared.
In 3 minutes, if you can do that kind of thing in 3 minutes, help everyone process that with you. That's what I think is like, you've reached like peak comedy.
Yeah. No, I get it. I know for myself, I lost my dad in a period of time when I was doing stand-up. And I thought, I've been doing stand-up a couple of years now. Let me make a joke about my dad. And I realized, nope, I haven't processed it. I'm not ready. I'm also not ready as a comic to pull it off. So I legitimately admire comics who pull off talking about like trauma in a way that is both artful, tasteful, and hilarious.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah, I think I think it takes like some wisdom from someone older than you to like kind of tell you, hey, don't do that yet.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us figure it out too late that like, like you really do, you can keep that joke in your back pocket. Like don't go out the gate and start trying to talk about that kind of stuff. 'Cause I think it kind of re-traumatizes you, honestly, to be like, now I'm witnessed in all this pain.
Yeah.
And like, this isn't like a performance art, this is stand-up. So it feels a little bit more jarring to be like, dang it. And they didn't laugh.
Yeah. So did you actually have somebody tell you, hey, maybe wait a little bit? Because I have this vision of stand-ups, in the back thinking, this newbie.
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah, it's fascinating is while I was walking to the back and there was comics, they're kind of teetered around waiting for their spot. It's coming up.
Yeah.
I got so many high fives. I got so many dude. And I was like, I know for a fact that sucked. So the fact that y'all are acting like this. Oh my God. But it was like, I think it was also like nice. It was a kindness in a way too, because it didn't let me dwell immediately. And like, I do tend to dwell immediately. So it was nice to kind of get like dabbed up and be like, hey, you did that shit,
Yeah. So after that first one, you said you went like super hard. You went six days a week, multiples a night.
Yeah, it was like my non-negotiable thing that I did.
Wow.
I just had felt like I felt very like confused at the time of like what I was even doing in Austin. So I think having something to really like spend a lot of my energy on and feel like it's a forward motion, even if it's small, forward motion, like felt really purposeful. And I think that's what I was seeking a lot at the time, was like trying to find a purpose, and like stand up really provided that for me in my early 20s, after moving to a brand new city, knowing no one.
Yeah. And were you like writing things? There's the trope of people who write like all the time. Was that you? Since you didn't know a lot, you read the book and it told you a formula, but did you kind of buy into this whole I'm going to write all the time, or you're just going to talk on stage, figure it out from there? What was your approach to the whole thing?
I went for the writing, like 110%. I still now like will take writing classes, and it's never really, I've kind of gotten to the point where it's not focused on writing comedy, and it's more focused on just the ability to constantly write. And I think that has been really fruitful for me in being able to like express myself in new ways, and also not talk about things that I'm dwelling on, and rather talk about things that are like actually interesting to me. So yeah, I still carry that, like, I want to write. I like right now I'm feeling a little bit of tension and I want to write. Like,
yeah. It's like truly the creative outlet
yes.
for you, more so than I got to write,
Yeah.
set up punchline.
I think it's also got this like beautiful somatic release to it, to like have the hand moving constantly and not letting the mind be the authority of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my little token of knowledge.
So I know the writing is on the wall because you said you moved to Austin in 2018. You went hard into comedy for a couple of years. What made you stop?
Oh, boy.
We can do the math. 2018 plus 2. What happened?
Yeah. I think I don't know how to talk about this actually, but it was like I just had a group of friends in stand-up, and it's really hard being like the only woman.
Yeah.
And also, like, even though I am a woman in stand-up and they are a man in stand-up, there's a lot of jealousy from men towards women in stand-up because there is so much less women. Mm-hmm. And so we will be like the token woman on a lineup, and we will...
Yep.
We don't have to compete as hard against the men. We're really, I think I viewed stand-up as like I'm competing against myself to be funnier. And a lot of the men I was around was like, I'm competing with everyone in this room.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think that jealousy, unacknowledged, kind of manifested in like some cruelty. And it was hard. It got to me, and this was like during the pandemic too, so like stand up was like the only people that I was actually talking to regularly. So yeah, it just kind of got to me eventually, and I was like, why am I even hanging around these people?
Yeah,
like, it's such a drag. And then it was like, oh yeah, because it's my only choice. And then I was like, that's not a good reason.
Yeah.
Actually,
yeah,
I'll go be by myself. Like, and I did that for a while. I would just like hang by myself at the bar and wait for my turn. And then that creates its own tension. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to step back.
Yeah.
Because then everybody's like, she hates me.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? I'm sorry, my opinion matters so much to you. Like, that's a you problem.
Right. But in that 2 years' time, you were performing all over Austin, presumably.
Yeah.
That you had to have known Fallout existed, Cold Town, Hideout existed. Mm-hmm. Did you know that there was this whole other aspect of comedy performance?
So I did start taking improv classes at Hideout, and this was like, we were outdoors and we were masked, and it was hot Texas days. So I did kind of have some knowledge, some awareness that there was improv, but I didn't really understand like how far it goes, or that I could like bring stand up here, or I could put on my own shows here. Even I thought I thought it was one of those like you have to be picked kind of situations.
Yeah. And
with my anarchist mindset towards performing, I was like, I'm not waiting around. I'm gonna go do what I gotta do. Uh-huh. And so I just went harder towards stand up than I did improv, and then it just kind of switched whenever I like stand up got too heavy, and I really dived deep into improv, and I found that I was like very nurtured in this community. And there are and I think there's probably other people who have talked about this, but there are like levels where it's like amateur, mid, and then like senior, like veteran kind of levels. Within improv there is that. Yeah. So you kind of like always feel taken care of in a way. I think people just have more perspective when there's that all levels of people. Yeah. And Jessica Arget was actually my first improv teacher and is now my boss.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Having basically been covering the stand-up scene for years now, and now that I've kind of thrown myself into the improv class environment, I am blown away by how different the cultures are. Like with the stand-up, I totally get what you're saying about the jealousy and the competitiveness and the loan shark kind of mentality that exists, and people doing unscrupulous things. And in the improv world, it's like, you start a class and everybody's talking about boundaries and, identifying by their pronouns if they want to. And it's like, nobody does that in stand-up.
No.
That doesn't exist.
No. We literally, in improv, trust is literally like written on the wall.
Yeah.
And then, in stand-up, I actually got made fun of for they-theming someone. It's like, well, what's going to happen when I tell you I'm a they-them? Whoops. Gotcha. Snuck in.
So you got into the improv, and then you started probably thinking maniacally to yourself, oh, I could create this thing that is like deep within me.
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting because I don't think I had that initiative at that point. Like, it took me a long time to feel ready to like really create my own projects.
Interesting.
I think I went into improv being like, I need to recuperate like my sense of self and my sense of community.
Yeah.
Because those are things I value so much, and those are things that are like wounded right now. So yeah, I spent quite a lot of time doing that within improv. And then I discovered clown because somebody invited Courtney Perozzo and a couple other LA clowns. I want to say, John Norris and Corey Podell. They invited them over. They're doing like their shows, but they also are doing a workshop. And so I found clown through them being at the Improv Theater. And that was like pivotal.
Wow.
Huge, pivotal for me.
What did you feel?
I just felt like, I feel what a lot of new baby clowns feel, which is like, what the hell just happened? I don't know what this is. Nobody is able to explain it to me, but like I feel so powerfully drawn to it, and like something is there for me. Yeah. And I gotta like hunt it down. I gotta uncover, unleash, whatever it is. So yeah, that kind of sent me on a journey of its own to be like, what is clown and where is it at? And I was very lucky to like have access to going to like different cities and learning from a lot of different teachers who have been doing clown for like decades, and like work in institutions that are able to define it better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna take a pause break on that because I think that'll lead us nicely into your big project that you sadly have just wrapped up. And we're gonna play this card game. Where should we begin? My web guru Richard Goodwin gifted me with this card game, and it's 2 prompts. You're gonna point to one of these cards, and I'm gonna read that one to you after you read the other one to me, and we'll just trade answering these prompts. So point to that one. I will read that one to you after you read this one to me.
Okay. I'm surprised I'm still alive after.
Good Lord. After parenting? After parenting an 18-year-old who just, left, and I'm single mom. So, it's been, solo project for many years.
That's a really cool way to put it, actually.
Well, kind of like trauma, followed you around. He lost his dad, my ex-husband, when he was 12. So, for the last 6 years, I've truly been the single mom. His dad remarried, and the stepmom has stayed in his life. So it's kind of like he's earned 2 moms at the price of losing the dad, when he could have had, the three of us. And it used to be really cool that, we'd all 3 show up for parent conferences and his events. So we were very good co-parents. But, the going to events, the raising, parenting, feeding, all of that, fell on me after the divorce. So I am surprised I have survived that. But
it takes a brave person to step up and really fill in those shoes of 2 parents.
Yeah.
It's great that the stepmom was around too. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, I know. It was really good. Yeah, we were texting this morning because, inside story, you and I at that social gathering, we talked about the Turkish girlfriend, and they have broken up. So me and the stepmom were just talking about how, that did not work out. She made some bad choices.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what? I believe it.
Yeah.
Knowing myself, I'm just going to represent an entire country real quick. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Marceline, something people often misunderstand about me.
Well,
it's not plural. It's something.
Just something. Just something. I think people often, I've actually received feedback that I come off a bit aloof and like standoffish. I actually had someone tell me that was jarring of me.
Really?
Yes.
Good Lord.
I asked for the feedback in that situation, so I think they just went full throttle on me, and I was like, all right, I recognize the realness of this situation. This is good. But yeah, I think for me, I am just a bit more reserved. I'm very cautious of people who try to rock the boat, in a sense. So yeah, I do kind of build friendships over years rather than over one interaction or a week or a month. Yeah. And it's just I'm very involved in my own life, and I think I'm at an age where it's it just takes a little bit more effort to come together and make friends with me.
Yeah.
I could probably make it easier, but I don't know.
But then the friendships wouldn't be as deep.
Yeah,
either.
That's very true. The people that I would call my friends, I've known them for 5 or more years. It's been a long relationship that's built over time. I know who they are in every situation.
Yeah.
So I feel very safe and secure, and I just feel like we understand each other on this level that is not as available. And there's room to have community friends and all that, and that's fine.
Yeah. But
I'm not going to tell you about my home renovation. Let's just talk about movies. Let's talk about movies, because if we talk about home renovation, I'm gonna cry.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right, now I want to know. But I guess I'm not in the circle.
No. I love you. I'll let you know.
Okay. Right.
After, when the mics are off.
Okay. Okay, so we were just teetering on the edge of starting to talk about creating your own project and falling in love with clowning, and you literally traveled the country taking classes. I mean, that's amazing. That's commitment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky to have access to that kind of resource. And I fully acknowledge that. Yeah, I think my greatest teacher was in, I met him in South Paris, Maine at Celebration Barn.
Okay.
And I always tell people, if you can make it up there, do it.
Wow.
'Cause Aitor Baswari is his name. and he is in charge of a theater company called Spy Monkey in London. So he'll travel to the US like when he's on tour or just to come teach classes. And he is one of the most brilliant, kind people I've ever met. And he was so generous towards me in the fact that like I am learning. And he always, like it's amazing to see like your teacher is trying their best to help you.
Yeah.
Like that's a really fascinating thing
Yeah.
to see, I feel like, and to experience, because it really just makes you value the work that you're doing so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a funny paradox too, because the work I'm doing is like the work of like being an idiot. What is that?
Yeah. So when did Clown Garden start coming together for you as a concept, as a show?
I felt like it was difficult to get into or to find stable stage time in doing experimental comedy. I know that there's already like shows in-house specifically at the Fallout. But I just was not in with the Fallout people. So I felt like it was like harder to access, and so I was like, well, I can do it probably, right?
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like set up a meeting with Holly, and she was so enthusiastic and kind about it, and was very like validating and supportive and encouraging whenever I kind of told her my fears of starting a show for the first time. And she helped me find all the resources I needed, and on May 15th.
I love that you have your notebook to fact check yourself. I love that so much.
May 15th was the first Clown Garden, and I was a pickle. Yeah, that was it. It was a beautiful day. I actually dedicated my like pickleness to Adam Sandler and did a PowerPoint about Adam Sandler and his relationship with me.
I love it.
Because there are an abundance of photos of this man with a jar of pickles in public.
Wow.
He's a character.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole reason I started comedy was because Adam Sandler came to me in a dream. So I was like, it's only right.
Yeah.
It's only right that the biggest hurdle that I'm facing and have faced for the last like 3-4 years, I dedicated to Adam. Good old Adam.
Wow. That's amazing.
One day I'll meet him and I'll let him know.
Yeah.
Say, hey, by the way.
So funny. I have crocheting is all like the rage. We went somewhere, I can't remember now where we got this, but we have an emotional support pickle at home.
I have the same one. I have the same one. Oh no, it's way smaller. Sorry. I've got a delicate little one.
Well, now here we are comparing our emotional support pickles.
I'm so glad that we both have one, though. Like, what a synchronicity.
Right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so pickles, and then a pickle, and then like I hate that I didn't know about Clown Garden until the finale, and I don't know why I didn't realize this is because I love experimental comedy. I know you and I had talked about how Sandbox was kind of the predecessor to Explorophoria, and that I've always enjoyed experimental comedy. My son and I, when he was younger, we would come on Sandbox and do a sketch.
Really?
And it was literally a mom and her son, and I was the bitch mom, and he was the innocent sweet baby boy. And it was so much fun.
That's
and,
good.
I think experimental comics and curators and show producers are some of the most nurturing people, because they know you're putting yourself out there doing something nonsensical by, the written word. And it's just, you're literally it's you being you and like letting whatever nonsense you want to do out into the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that creating the show and like having people come on has surely taught me to kind of navigate other artists a little bit better. Because I did it for selfish reasons. Obviously, I was like, I need stage time. I want to do weird shit. I want to get it out of my system.
Yeah.
But I think with that came a lot of questions of like, how do I do that too? Or like feeling validated in doing that as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have never been like a words of affirmation person. But I would like think about it like before the show of like, what do I want to hear? Like, you know, what makes me feel good? And like try and just like give a little pep talk of like, oh my God, you guys all look so amazing. Like, this is going to be so good. I love, you know, not that it wasn't genuine. It was so genuine, but like, it just, yeah, I think it's a beautiful space. And I feel very honored to like have been there to like create that space for people.
Yeah.
And I'm so appreciative of everybody who came on and was willing to be like, show themselves and like do what they think is good and funny and makes them feel good.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest value that comes out of it is like you will leave this understanding yourself a little better.
Yeah.
Which might ultimately confuse you a bit more, but hey, with time, keep coming back.
Yeah. Well, I will, because I am the de facto historian of Austin comedy. I will tell you that seeing an evolution is one of my favorite things in the world to do. I remember going to a Sandbox where Joey Z was on, and I'm pretty confident this was the first time he was on Sandbox, and he did the "Is it a bong or is it a lampshade?" And, you know, that start for him was how he was a brilliant stand-up. He is a brilliant stand-up. But that kind of experience allowed him to kind of pursue this other avenue that became the Glow Show, that became like this touring thing that he does. And I mean, it's kind of, and I've seen a Glow Show and it is nuts.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And I'm like, I'm so glad that he allowed himself to do that, because as we talked about at the beginning, stand-ups kind of have their mental quirks.
Yeah.
And they can be very judgy and rigid about, you know, the art of stand-up.
Yeah.
But if you let go of that, I mean, he's got the Glow Show.
Yeah. I like to call those quirks thresholds.
Okay.
Because like you could absolutely be on the other side of that, but you're choosing to stay and be like, no, this is the line in the sand.
Yeah.
But I actually got to help out with Glow Show on New Year's Eve.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, that's why she's not at my show.
I wanted to be there. I swear. But it was super fun. It was my first time seeing it and like getting to kind of like help out with it and help things like go smoothly was great. And I felt very like, oh, like I see the mission he's on. What's also fascinating is it a lampshade and is it a bong is still in his piece.
I know.
So I feel I'm like excited to like hear that, because I love whenever people whenever something that you like came up with years ago is still part of the foundation of what you're doing now. Yeah. It really like to me shows like an authenticity in what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm the historian. All these random little nuggets of knowledge.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. So so Clown Gardens started in May, and then you just wrapped it up in December. And in the meantime, you did Hacks Fest, and I got to see you as Trisha and all of her messy ways.
Yes.
How many different characters do you think you've done between May at Clown Garden and Hacks Fest?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's a math question. My favorite. I mean, I'd say I've probably done around like 8 or 9 different characters. Yeah. 3 of those characters were actually like the incubation of Trisha. I just like found inspiration from one thing I would see. So like I love Twilight so much. I watch it yearly.
Oh my gosh.
It's the best thing ever. It's a comedy. I don't listen. Anybody who says differently, I'm not listening. Like, it's a comedy. So I did like Bella Swan getting pregnant and like giving birth on stage, and I made people like take my pants off, and it was a whole thing. And then I did Dolly Parton, and she flat ironed her hair.
Oh my god!
And it was a big deal, and she was singing songs about like people who had got cheated on, which is her thing. But I was like asking audience members like, what's his name? Who is he? What does he do for work? Like, and that was super fun. And then like it eventually evolved into Trisha, like just from those like foundational pieces. And I think a lot of my work that I'm doing now, I like, you know, even if something's not great now, I'm like, I know this is gonna be part of something bigger for me later. So I always feel excited to come up with new characters. Yeah. I'm excited to try out this poetry slam character too.
I think it's great. I think there's something there. Yeah. So how are you now that Clown Garden, I know, I mean, it just wrapped, and we went through the holidays, and, you know, people are like, I'm not doing anything. Yeah. Have you reflected on what your next, like, avenue is for continuing with clowning?
Yeah, I would say I'm in a bit of a confusing spot of like trying to like feel out where the threshold for me is, and like then navigating how to cross it. But for sure I am continuing to try and bring like clown shows, variety shows. I have Disaster Show, which will be, let me pull up the dates. One of those that I didn't write down in my notebook. Disaster Show, it'll be on January 15th. And then I have a solo show later in the month as well on January 28th. Okay. And I'll be splitting that slot with Malia from Garage, who's doing, I think it's 23 and Me and You. I got to confirm that title. That might be misinformation. Oops. But yeah, so I'm going to be trying to do those, and those are like clown-esque. And then hopefully we'll have another clown night. Ooh. A full-blown clown night. Yeah. We'll see.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I don't think so. I would just like to say, Adam Sandler, I love you so much. I've watched every movie, and yes, some of them are problematic, but it's okay because he's great. Yeah. Well, I had a lot of fun. I appreciate you bringing me on to this podcast, and I'm happy that I finally got to talk about clown and just kind of like my journey to finding it as well through stand-up and improv. And I had a lot of fun. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you ready for your closing word? Yes. Your closing question, rather.
My closing
question.
Which
is one word to describe your future.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
Is that it?
Yes.
Of course. Oh,
nervous, excited.
All right, I got to write it all down. Hang on, everyone. That was a lot of oh boys, a lot of repetition.
We love a good repetition.
All right, awesome. That is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Marceline Amaris. Marceline, tell us where we can find you on social media and promote your projects that you know of.
You can find me at Is It Marceline or at Clown Garden ATX.
Oh, okay. Very good. Short and sweet. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Marceline got to be the comedic genius that you heard today just as much as I have. And one of my favorite classmates. This has been Comedy Wham! Presents Marceline Amaris. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Marceline.
Thank you, Valerie.